guys at the analyst desk for their take on Royal Club's monster Game 1 win.
Thank you very much, Riv. And what a game from Royal Club. They came out swinging and landed every single blow. Before we talk about the game and how that played out, I really feel like Royal Club did their homework in this matchup. They banned out Cassidy and Lissandra, two champions that we've seen, Soaz and Pekka using particularly well, and then Shen as well. So with the added threat of those teleports, that's a lot of non-globals to deal with.
And when people talk about Fnatic's strategy in the pre-game discussion, we were all saying Fnatic's TP, this is how they're going to shut down Uzi. When you ban Cassidy and Lissandra, it eliminates a lot of what Fnatic has been using throughout the group stage and quarterfinals to use TP, and they ended up early picking Fizz, which I think was a big mistake because that's a little disrespectful of White. I don't think he knew that White played Orianna, who does really well against Fizz, and as you can see, at like 8 minutes, Fizz had 20 CS to White's 60 CS.
And there's something really interesting as well in the pick and ban game, because we look at just yesterday's semifinal, where it was like Jax has been used as a primary counterpick to Shen, and he will destroy the matchup, and did every single time. And here's Royal, who were happy to play Jax, banned Shen anyway, because they weren't worried about the 1v1 matchup, they're worried about actually the teleport game. Screw the 1v1 matchup, it's actually about taking Fnatic out of the comfort zone. And then second to that as well is the pick counterpick point that Jat brought at the very end there, which is these guys blind picked Jax and said, bring whatever you want, we're still going to win the matchup. Meanwhile, they got to counterpick Fizz and won that one really hard.
But it wasn't just the picks and bans that really showed the strength of Royal's planning right here. I really want to talk about this top lane jungle pathing that we saw, the follow from Godlike through the jungle. And it was really funny because this is the first time I've seen a professional team do that. But as Double Lift knows, Hotshot came up with this idea, and we were planning on using this in the LCS playoffs.
Is this Season 3 secrets?
Season 3 secrets. But we wanted the 2v2 lane against TSM, so we were going to use it if we got deeper into the tournament. But the basic idea here is if you do a full jungle clear with your top laner tagging along, both your jungle and your top will hit level 3 if they share that experience. And you abuse the fact that most 2v1 laners, the two-man will decide to pile the wave and slow push it into the turret. So you have this assumption that they want to build the wave, so that gives you a lot of time to get back into that lane, and therefore it gives your solo laner a pretty big advantage and is a lot harder to dive.
Yeah, this is pretty much a really nice elaboration. I'm coming from just doing wolves on a solo lane and then going back to lane, just getting all those camps, as Moni said. And as you said, yeah, I really like the part that it punishes people who stack waves. That's why recently in Europe we see more people just going for the fast push 2v1 to basically have the least risk. It gives more reward in the worst case, but it's way less risky. At the same time, it punishes Leona really well. If Leona stacks waves, all she can do is dive. So technically, Cyanide should join Leona to guarantee the dive, because if Lucky and Godlike join up and use those AoE spells to clear the stacked waves under the tower, there's literally nothing you can do as Leona. You cannot chunk a tower, you cannot dive to people, you get pushed out. And then I really like how Royal handled the Leona. In early game, they did that. Mid game, you have Lulu and Vayne. Condemn can get her away. Wildgrowth can both stop Zenith Blade and protect people that are getting hit. What I would like to see still, though, is Uzi going for a cleanse. As we pointed out in talking during this game, double shield composition on a Vayne should be enough to keep her alive, and I really think you should opt for a cleanse there over a barrier.
And actually, to talk about your point, I guess both your points around the 2v1 setup and the jungle clear, think back to the very beginning of the game, because that game started on a very hectic early game fight, and Fnatic, if I recall correctly, did not have a lot of deep ward coverage spotting the jungle route. That in part of this game, Royal knows that Fnatic doesn't know he's clearing the wolves and clearing the red and clearing the wraiths, so Fnatic doesn't have the intelligence or the knowledge to counteract that.
That's exactly right, and when we were planning for it, you have to deny those deep wards, and one of the ways you can do that is with a pretty fast invade. So it all comes together, yeah, that's a really good observation.
Or a level 1 fight where you force everybody and not actually doing it. One thing I want to touch on, because we focus very much on the very early game, is just how well White's actually played during the course of that matchup. His Orianna dominated Pekka in the mid lane. He managed to force a flash and ignite very early on. He was up, I think, like 80 CS approaching the 20-minute mark. I think he went 5-1-3 or 5-1-5 towards the end there, I can't recall. He had a brilliant performance, and he was almost, swinging the game in their favor. Even though all the lanes were doing particularly well, White's counter-ganked, he was in the bottom lane when there was trouble, he was roaming at the right times, and Royal just played that phenomenally.
And I think Pekka was a little arrogant in first picking Fizz, because if you remember back in group stage when they played Gambit, Pekka was on Fizz and he randomly turned around the lane by killing Alexic with an amazing play between 2 towers. And that's not going to happen every game. He played against White this game, and White played safe and smart, and he got an amazing CS lead. White ended up actually roaming bottom lane. Orianna should not be out roaming Fizz. Yeah. And I think that won't happen again. I don't think Pekka is going to early pick an assassin like Fizz that can be counterpicked by a good player like White.
Well, closing thoughts, Greppa?
At the same time, this ties in with the entire 2v1 matchup. So they deny the vision, they force 2 against 1. That pretty much guarantees that the jungle is going to show up in one either top or bot lane, and that makes any counter matchup in mid any more potent. Like Orianna can get ganked by Lee Sin and Fizz working together, but because Royal was forcing these 2v1s, they basically said, hey, have your mid lane free to yourself and just win that matchup.
Wow, fantastic research and decision-making from Royal secures in the first game in the series. We do have to take a very quick break, but when we return, Uzi and the rest of Royal Club will try to make it 2 in a row against Pekka and Fnatic. Plus, SK Gaming